Alrighty, everybody. Hey, it is 20 minutes with Bridgette, and today is June 18th. So this morning I got up and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to teach on today? Usually I have a couple days, to think about it. And so kept rummaging through things, and then all of a sudden this voice said, do a pendulum series, dowsing series, because I'm like the master dowser. So it's going to be like 5 parts, 20 minutes with Bridgette. So I'm just going to show you one of my pendulums that I use for deep water, kind of with moony kind of work, which would come from the ocean. And yeah, so I collect things when I go out to use. Sometimes I will use, say for example, I have to go to someone's property and I have to do some dowsing for animal health, symptoms, just kind of helps me with that. Also the health of the property, the house, if there's any kind of like spirit kind of activity, or whatever else is going on. It helps me to work through a lot of the energy. And it helps me to like GPS exact points, right, that I need to pay particular attention to, and maybe even, like create some medicines. But I also have used it in the grocery stores. For a period of my life, that's all I did. I had this metal dowsing device, and I would take it out and spin it wherever I went. Sidewalks, accident areas where there's been accidents, grocery stores, like over my produce, like the whole 9 yards, to figure out, what food maybe that week is best for me, or sometimes in a pile, asking, which one of these, oranges has the most nutrient density in it, is it, got a lot of chemicals, or, whatever else. So I was just going to see if I had something that I could douse. No. Anyway, we're going to have 5 points. Today is mostly about, today's going to be why pendulum or dowsing is better than muscle testing. All right, so this is horsetail. I harvested it last year. I made this tincture from it. So I'm just going to ask some questions. So I just want you to see that I'm not moving it. All right. So I can pretty much pick up anything and it will read for me, right? It'll help me. Was this horsetail plant happy to be my teacher last year? Yes, very much so. Yeah, is being just in the presence, being in the presence of this tincture. What is it radiating, good energy? Yes. Okay, let me stop it real quick. All right, does horsetail know how much I love it? Does the horsetail plant know how much I love it? And how much do I love it? I'm surprised it's not really going, wah! But anyway, and I'll teach you kind of ideas on how to get the most out of your pendulum in one of the classes coming up. So anyway, super fun. All right. Okay, so let's go to the blog I prepared for you. And, my blogs are not set in stone, with the links and everything. I just try to find, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel with a lot of stuff. I give other people some airtime with their links and stuff. And also it might have stuff on there that I think is, pretty good. So offer it to you. So remember, my links are not set in stone. Think for yourself, put your thinking cap on. Oops. Oh, all right. Okay, so we're gonna go down, and you know what? I don't know why my blog is acting really weird. Yeah, it's doing this small thing, and then look, it put the Patreon there, and so I mean, probably what's going on. Yeah, it's just, high strangeness. So I'll have to actually fix it, which is, I have to figure out why it's being irritating. It's all small. Okay, so we'll just kind of go over this, and then we'll have the chat. Um, so there's an ongoing to be 5-part series in this Pendulum series. Part 1 is why dowsing is better than muscle testing. So that's today. And pendulum dowsing, especially for health and supplements and food and things of that nature. Why do I think? Well, because I can pretty much douse with anything that somebody has on them, which is going to have a longer relationship with that person, good, bad, and different, right? All through all their emotional upheaval. So it gets a sense of how this person's programming runs. So if I take a key from your car, even a whole keychain, jewelry, anything that's in your environment, even some change that's been in your car or your pocket, objects in your house. I don't keep them, but I'll put a strand on them, and then I'll spin it, and I'll find out. I'll have a lot more better information if I come at it from that point of view, right? Yeah, okay. And pendulum works the best because you can really it's not a type of dowsing device where you're just going to get a read, right? It's a type of dowsing device that I can ask it a specific question. I can ask it verbally, or I can ask it mentally, or I can ask it emotionally or visually. I can, pose it what I know to need. So once it picks it up, then it can answer pretty much any question that I want to answer. And it's not touching, that other person if I'm going to use it for another person or that other object. So, I have a thing with space, and touching and things like that because of energetic stuff. I get imprinted really easy. I can touch just about anything, and then sometimes I'll have like a crazy emotional day because I picked up all those people's emotions, right? All that stuff. So sorry about the beeping in the background. It's just the oven. All right, so I would rather use a pendulum than to touch a person, muscle touch them, because muscle testing, there's always this touching going on. So I'd like to get away from that touching and be able to have space that I can assess the person, or just read them in general without a lot of the muscle testing. And muscle testing is kind of a left hemisphere practice because you've got to generate a lot of questions for the muscle testing, then go back and muscle test. And then sometimes, people use different types of muscle testing. I learned this one. Yeah. So when I was working with one of my first native teachers, is horsetail good for me? Yeah. So I get a bump out of that. So I got an opening. So when you get fast at doing your testing to, gain answers. So I just really try to stay away from muscle testing, especially touching other people. And I feel like I can get a lot more information by looking at the environment, the situation, the person, whatever it is. And then using the dowsing to not really verify, but help me to read the energy to make sure that I'm reading it correctly. And like I said, I can impose all kinds of different reflections, imprinting onto it, it in the form of questions or visual or feelings, or in order to gather the, right and correct information. Okay. Dowsing, a technique for searching for underground water, minerals, or anything visible by observing the motion of a pointer, traditionally forked stick, or, or the changes in the direction of a pendulum, supposedly in response to unseen influences. That's just a definition that I found. So I don't know, in 2007, I'm thinking it had to be before that. I don't know. I think maybe like 2004, 2005, maybe 2004, 2005, 2006. I don't know. Somewhere in that time frame, I got hired by a mining company to basically go over assayer reports. So they would get these reports for their holdings, or say reports from assayers for potential, excuse me, land that they were consider buying. They'd want to know if there were certain assets or resources left out, or that weren't identified. Sometimes they would have me actually go. I spent a summer kind of around New Mexico. So I got to know New Mexico quite a bit, which I really love New Mexico. And so basically what happened is that there were parcels of land that they were interested in buying because of the resources. So there were certain things that this company looked for, right? So I had to build kind of a relationship with those things that they were looking for. And then I would, go out and douse areas. I think the largest piece I dowsed, I had to break into 32 parts and read, each part. So I would put together a document based on my findings from dowsing, and they paid me for it. So it was pretty good money, and I really like doing it, right? Because I like to, you know, see what's going on. And I learned a lot about, after that. Then I had my teacher Bovido, and he passed in June 2016. And I always say his date because it's like I'm honoring him, right? So that's the part of the honoring. But he used to talk to me and teach me a lot about how the earth actually works. And so having had this dowsing experience, really kind of helped me to dig and feel deeper, and just be, I'm pretty adamant these days. I wouldn't work for a mining company these days. I won't, work for anyone that I feel is dangerous to soil, plants, air, water. So I have some integrity issues these days. Okay, so so let's see. I use dowsing to collect information for anything and everything. Dowsing also, regular muscle testing only uses the left hemisphere in the practitioner and the patient. You have two hemispheres, which are like two people, and they have to actually work together to be unified to actually be able to harvest all data and all information. Because the way that the right hemisphere is and how it communicates in a whole, different way, sees things in a different way than the left hemisphere. And the left hemisphere is more of our reptilian hemisphere, where it's all about us, survival, and details, language, technical things, like getting an education, just a lot of different kinds of things, building things. Also, it's where your illness comes from because it's where you run a lot of acid. So if you don't have a lot of right hemisphere stuff that's going on. So if you muscle test, you are going to muscle test in a way where you're only, getting into the left hemisphere and the right side of the body. So the right hemisphere, deals with the left side of the body, which is female, and it's also called in like types of shamanism, left side awareness. It's like where you really pick up, stuff that's going on, which is going to be explained and picked up by the right hemisphere, not the left hemisphere. That's why you can't always find answers for things that happen that, maybe energetically or spiritually or, what you might think is paranormal, because different sides of your brain are digesting different parts of the information. And mostly in those kinds of experiences, the right hemisphere is experiencing more than the left. All right, so when you're dowsing, you're going to be coming from a whole brain perspective, right? Because you've got, you're listening for your stone. Your brain, your right hemisphere digs communicating with the stone and having the stone communicate to it. The left side is like, trying to figure out how it works. What should I do? What should I tell it? How should I go? Should I try to spin it? That's the left hemisphere is the crazy maker. So that's why sometimes with muscle testing, you keep, going in and asking more and more questions, is because you're dealing with the left hemisphere and in the person or animal, land, whatever else it is, because it's going to have two parts, two sides. You may only be picking up on the left hemispheric type side, more what's visible, what you can see, what you like, what you don't like. All these things that go through your mind are very left hemisphere, right? The right side is more omnipotent, in the present moment, just kind of going with the flow. It's feeling and sensing, its way through the world. So when you're doing pendulum work, when it's hands, on with your pendulum, you're connecting with your right hemisphere, right? And then you're going to be asking left hemispheric questions, right? And you have to, see what's going on, right? See what's going on. It's showing off. The shell is showing off. And you want to get all the information about the whole person's body, because if you're just coming from a left hemispheric, you're only getting to know what's really going on the right side of the body, right? And maybe not all that clear, because also the right needs to pick up images and feelings. And so that's why you need the pendulum, because the pendulum can help you to sense your way through this kind of work as well. So you get the right and the left hemisphere as the practitioner jamming, which means that you get access to the right and left hemisphere type fields. And then you have better access to your patient or fruit or car purchase, or figuring out what's wrong with your car, or whatever you're going to use it for, right? Now, I was told this a long time ago, like pendulums also kind of pick up on I'm going to call it a dragon layer. And dragon energies, if you use things for bad purposes and bad reasons, dragon and some of the other types of elementals, they just are not going to work with you anymore. And sometimes they get so mad that they may not ever work with you again. So, always use everything for the benefit, right, of the good, right? It's all about the good. Okay. Also, too, the best thing that I like to teach people about pendulum dowsing is that it puts your health in your hands, right? You're not going to a practitioner who wants to sell you supplements because that's how they make money. I'm not saying, it's all bad. That's why I don't do, supplement pyramids. And I have different products that I like from different types of vendors. So when I'm doing like a nutritional consulting for people, and I think there are certain types of nutrient elements, supplements that can be used, I'll send them links by email after the assessment so that they can get those things. So the first thing that they can do is they can actually just start working with that stuff, and then, in 3 weeks or whatever, go from there. But I'll send them different things, what I feel is, the best, right? And it may not be like the same company. Okay. So when you get to learn to use a pendulum and you go to a practitioner and they want to muscle test you to take these different products, you don't need that. And they're only accessing part of you. They're not accessing all of you. And there's an agenda. So you can muscle test yourself. You can just say, well, hey, don't touch me. I'll muscle test myself here. Could you put the products, line them up? And they don't even need to have space once you get good at this. You can just be like, zoom, 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 through them all. And once you learn how to use the pendulum, you'll know for certain if what it's telling you, and yes or no, right? And then sometimes you get a good relationship with it and you have this feeling, you have a feeling with it. So you could, douse it, I douse a lot of stuff. I have a lot of stuff. Even my, prayer smoking blends that I made this winter, I doused all the plants in it. I did all the dowsing of the dry plants. So I'm just going to ask it, is this still a really good blend for me right now? And it's just telling me yes. But you see how it's just like right over that lid? And then if I take it away, then it stops, right? And then if I put it back, it's gonna, go again. And if I take it away, let me take it over here. It's gonna stop. And then if I bring it back, is it still good for me? Anyway, it's like, don't play me. Homie, don't play me. All right, so you have the power in your hands, right, to figure things out that you can't figure out, right? And it helps you to work with more so that you can get away from, more of the agendas or, people filling your head with their needs, wants, and desires or drama, so that you can kind of get to the heart of the matter and you and all about you. And the other thing too is like, how many times we've had animal and you're just like so upset because you can't actually pinpoint what may be wrong with your animal. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to be able to whip out your animal pendulum and read the energy? And the other thing too is like, you've got, shells can do like a water energy. Different things can pick up on different things. Like you probably want to use a metal, even like a nail, you could tie it around a nail to douse for like minerals, certain types of minerals. You could get yourself a piece of Himalayan salt with a little hole drilled, and you can use that for mineral testing, because obviously the things that are made or derived of those things are going to make the signal stronger for the different types of dowsing that you want to do. And in the beginning, it does matter. And in the beginning, you should just do a lot of research and testing. I won't buy dowsing instruments. I used to have so many crystals, like I was the crystal crazy lady. And then there was a point where I just started giving them all away. And I don't buy pendulums with crystals and things of that nature, because I don't like that the crystals were taken out of the ground. And there's a whole other story for that because of my last native teacher. But if I do get crystals, then I find places to take them for healing of other things, right? And I put them in the ground or put them up in a limb or, wherever it looks like a good place, to put them. So I pick up natural things, keep with my natural things. And I try not to buy things, and I really try to leave gemstones and things like that where they belong, because the earth needs them more than I do. And I'm going to show you maybe the next pendulum class how to, use anything. So I'm going to spend this weekend going out just finding stuff to collect and bring back, so to test. Okay. Anyway, everybody, hey, thanks for your support. Have a great day, and I will stop screen sharing. Oh, there's a few more things on here. Sorry. How to use dowsing or divining rods. And like I said, I just, take my links the way they are, because I try not to invent the wheel, but trying to offer other information. Stroke of Insight, I love her. She's a PhD brain researcher, and she talks about the right and left hemisphere in a more significant way. Muscle testing stuff, and we kind of discussed why I don't like it. And then the left and right hemispheres, there's kind of a made simple kind of a, busy site. All right, so that's what you've got, and have a great day. And thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.